A beautiful day to you, and thank you for joining me on a new episode of the Women Series, where we capture developments and stories that impact women. I am Ayomide Oguntoye. Last week, we started a conversation around women in corporate services and how they improve leadership in their space. And we wanted to hear from a lawyer's standpoint, because we usually don't do that all the time. But I wanted to hear from the standpoint of a lawyer and how it is in their hand. And then we discovered that we find less women in litigation practicing as lawyers in litigation, and we're able to demystify all that has to do with that. But today, I'm also speaking to a lawyer, but not practicing as a lawyer, but is in the corporate service. I'm speaking today with the group head of FSDH Merchants Bank, none other than Stella Marie Omogbaye. Hello, ma'am. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Good morning, Ayomide. How's everything?
Very well, thank you. You look good.
Thank you so
And
much.
it's such a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
Yeah. So last week we started a conversation around female lawyers. Basically, I wanted to examine what leadership from their standpoint is like, and then we discovered that they have like quite a number of challenges. Of course, every job or every position comes with its own challenge. But we discovered that we have less people practicing as lawyers in Nigeria as of today. We find out that a lot of people now move from that standpoint, from what exactly they did to the corporate service, which of course is not bad. I mean, when you look at it, it's not a bad idea. I mean, in as much as you're happy and then you're progressing in your career. But I would love to start as from your leadership position, but let's hear a little bit about you. How did you enter the corporate banking field? Was it your dream? Was it what you wanted? And then what exactly is your narrative?
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. Lovely questions. I'll give a brief background. I did law because I came from a lawyer or a legal family background. So my two uncles, one was the Solicitor General of Bendel State and one was the Attorney General of Bendel State. So naturally, I was a social science student. So the natural thing for me was to do law.
Yeah.
And you know, when you are younger, you are guided by what the family wants. So I did law and I graduated as a lawyer. So I satisfied the family. Straight out of law school, I kind of figured out that wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Good.
And I went straight into banking because I have always been fascinated by figures. Following that, I did a few courses in accounting. I also did an MBA in business administration with a bias for finance. So for me, law was actually just the background. And why it was very good was the law is a very logical subject. It makes you look at an argument from both sides of the argument. Yeah. So it is actually a very deliberate field. I would like people to look more into going to law because law is very, very directional. And after that, you can also build upon what you want to do in the future. And for me, you know, in law, there are people actually look more towards litigation. There are several sides of law which people actually do not think so much about.
Explore.
Exactly. There's the solicitorship side of law, which has to do a lot with the agreements and very technical drafting, conveyancing. There's also teaching law. There's also the bench.
We don't see more of that.
That is it. Actually, there's also the bench, and that's going straight into judiciary, the judges and the magistrates. There's also what we call the arbitration part of law, which is sitting down and just trying to, will I say, let two parties agree on whatever, agree in such a way that you end up not going to court. So for me, it was an interesting field, very directional. However, that was actually not my first love. And my first love were figures. So straight out of law school,
that's like separate ends.
straight out of law school, I think the last time I did law was when I served. Straight out of law school, I served and I came into banking, and I have been in banking ever since.
That's interesting. I mean, it's easy because, well, I was also a victim of that as well. my parents wanted me to study law, but then again, I didn't want it. But let's see, that's quite an interesting story, by the way. Very, very interesting, because we have less people trying to follow their path. And then later on, they feel like, yeah, it's time for me to now do that. Then they now find out that it's probably late, and then they stick to whatever they're doing. But you were able to identify what you wanted from the get-go, and you went for it. That's good. Let's quickly talk on what's it called, gender diversity culture in FSDH, which of course I'm aware of. I know that you're quite a number. It's quite a diverse.
Diverse.
Yes, it's quite a diverse company.
Yeah.
Let's put it quite a diverse organization. But let's hear from you, like from the mouthpiece of a representative of FSDH. How would you characterize the FSDH culture, gender balance in a patriarchal society like ours?
I'll start with banking. When I came into banking, particularly in the area of corporate banking, where I heard, you will see a lot more men. Women in banking tended to go to the softer side of banking. What do I mean? Customer service, some parts of marketing that are not very technical, retail banking, branch banking. And I tend to like to see, okay, the difficult part of banking in quotes. What is it about this part of banking that men are succeeding more than women? And I started with corporate banking. And corporate banking, I tell people, I'm very happy at what's happening in the industry, but corporate banking was always something that was traditionally dominated by men. Back to FSDH. In FSDH, when I came into FSDH has always been a very gender compliant organization.
I can testify to that.
When I got into FSDH, we had a male MD, but the two executive directors were women. The male MD retired, we had a female MD. After the female MD, there's a second female MD, and I'm pleased to state that at least across the industry, we are now seeing a lot of female MDs of banks. We were one of the forward looking when it came to female MD. And in FSDH, what was it? I tell people the women are actually very, very strong. We have almost more or less an equal balance of women vis-a-vis the men. We don't look at it as a man first. We look at it as who is competent. And you find out that because we have a lot of women in the system, the women have actually grown to prove their competence. And the good thing about it, because you find a woman is driving the forefront of the organization, the other women are encouraged to want to do better so that they can follow the steps of the woman drive being at the forefront. My MD currently is a woman. I think she's a fantastic woman. I learn from her every day. Sometimes I find out that even the women under me and the women in other parts of the organizations come to me and say, we want you to be our mentor. So I actually mentor them towards succeeding. And one of the things I've done is the mistakes I've learned in the course of my journey. I've also taught them about the mistakes so that they don't learn. There's a reason why we have a woman in front. So she will learn the mistakes and tell you how not to fall into those kind of mistakes in the future. So for us, we are very gender focused, both at management, executive, board, and even other cadres of the organization. And it's something we take very, very seriously. We even in the course of our banking, we have a department focused on women-led businesses. We subscribe to all the gender initiatives. My MD is a part of some women-led organization. I'm also a part of WIMBIS. My MD does WinCap. So for us UN Women. So for us we see women as a part of the organization. We want to act, a part of the not organization, the world, the industry, the population. We want to actively cultivate and nurture to their best potentials.
That's quite interesting. I mean, two things you've laid facts to. One, you're promoting the SDG 5. Yeah. And of course, they're demystifying the myths around women supporting women. And that's a very beautiful thing to see. Now, according to Mckinsey poll, there was a Mckinsey poll around female leadership that gives organization a competitive edge for the future. Then again, there is another one, according to Mckinsey as well, on their Women Matter research that they said that, I'm just going to read that out. Female leaders tend to employ 5 of 9 most crucial leadership behaviors: people development, expectations and incentive, role modeling, inspiration, and participatory decision making. I mean, more frequently than male, they see this play out in more females than male leaders. What are your thoughts on this? And how does this provide female leaders or female CEOs a competitive edge?
For me, I think they're spot on. Women leaders tend to do a lot of collaborative leadership rather than dictatorial leadership. And the world is leaving dictatorship towards collaboration, teamwork actually, and that's what a lot of women leaders bring to the fore. If I start with FSDH, most of the time when we sit down, we have meetings, and my MD hears all the sides of the table to come at a conclusion. And that for me is very important. Like I said, I'm learning from her. I'm also learning to hear different arguments, because what you find out is different people always bring something to the table. Women leadership does a lot of that. Women leadership tends to be more quiet. A more quiet does not mean a less effective leadership. A more people-oriented leadership. And I find out that they are spot on that. A less egoistic, I type of leadership to a we type of leadership. And that's actually where the world is going to. And I find out that it actually brings the best results, as you see from the figures. Everybody, what you find in women leadership is everybody wants to put their best foot forward so that they contribute something to the organization. So you find out that people are actually driving, struggling to bring their best out. And I think a lot of that is what women leadership brings onto the table, and it is seen in the organization I'm currently
That's
working
good.
in.
But let me just put you on the spot for a
Tell
bit.
me.
Do you think that women, so some people believe that women are more stern than men when it comes to leadership position, and when they get there, they become, I mean, you pointed out the fact that women are less egoistic, but some people think that it's the opposite. As a leader, I mean, you personally, do you think that's what plays out?
No, this is what I think. Women women are more afraid of failure.
Okay, right. I agree with that.
Women are more afraid of failure. They want to, maybe traditionally from where we're coming from. So because they are more afraid of failure, they tend to want perfection. So you see a woman strive to be better than her colleagues. But for me, it's not in terms of ego. It's actually because women strive to be better. Traditionally, people have always said, what comes natural to men sometimes does not come natural to women. If you notice, there are things around women struggling for their seats at the table.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, because naturally a man expects the seat at the table. It's most of the time it's not really given to us in that way. We strive to
get
to
it.
earn
So
that
eventually
seat.
when you get it, you don't want to mess it up.
So exactly. So for me, it's not in so much. So women are not ego. You will never see a woman go on an argument that no, it's more women tend to be very driven, particularly women who've gotten to a certain stage. However, for me is that driven could be misread sometimes, but it shouldn't be misread. They tend to be driven, they want to work hard, they want to be good at everything, both at work and at home. They tend to be a lot more perfect than typical, but it is not. I actually think that our leadership has evolved from when traditionally they used to say women were not nice leaders to actually women actually were beginning to see the new women, and not only in organizations, also worldwide, political as well.
Right. So you you are seated on a position that is, I think it's quite strategic and quite demanding as well. And this is a question I ask virtually every female leader that I come across with. How do you balance it? Where does the place for balance come? So sometimes they say there is no work-life balance, there's work-life integration. I mean, it sounds funny, right? I've heard all sorts of things when it comes to balance. How do you balance it personally with your personal life?
So, but I will not sometimes, you are right about work-life integration, because sometimes you can almost not say there's a switch off. we tend to work almost 24 hours of the day, and and maybe it's even worse with COVID and technology and all, so you're always accessible. So for me is, um I have timeouts for exercise, I have timeouts for family, but in the course of that, I still, my phone.
Or you're working on the go.
Exactly. One thing, my phone is never off. I've never put off my phone in the last maybe 15 years.
Wow.
My phone is never off. You know, I've had a way of channeling. I looked
at someone that turns off her phone.
No, my phone is never out because of the work I do. Your customer, I'm dealing with different parts of the world, you know. If your customers could be in Singapore, your customers could be in Brazil, different time zones. It does not mean, I mean, all I need to do is just look at it and push it, schedule it to somebody, but my phone is never off. You know, what I've done is I also groom leaders, so I have a very, very strong team behind me. I can never do it alone. So even if it's to just schedule, but just to make sure that emergencies, we're dealing with people's monies. And one of the things I tell people is, if they try to get to your bank and you cannot get to your bag, what does that mean? So you're dealing with people's money, people's lives in certain things. So for me, I try to be accessible almost all the time, you know, and somehow there's a way, like you said, it's a work-life integration. Not so much as a balance, but we still try.
Like we still get on with it.
Yes.
As they say, we move regardless.
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting. Now, as a seasoned female leader in a corporate setting, could you offer advice to other women on how to navigate leadership positions for women in the corporate organizations, most especially? So for entrepreneurship, I know it's different, but for corporate organization, I mean, your experience spans over almost 2 decades, if not more than.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you've garnered a wide range of experience, not even only in FSDH, but in other banking sectors as well. So what are the advice you would give to women?
Okay. First of all, be knowledgeable. Educate yourself, and there are several layers of education. Self-education, continue to read, continue to add to your body of knowledge, read widely, and because you never know when something will pop at you, so always be prepared. Try and build up a strong, group of senior advisors.
Okay.
People who have been through it before. Mentors, some might be mentors, some might just be advisors. People who have been through it, who know, one, in the field you are in, two, in areas but close to the field, so that you can always run to them for advice and they will always guide you. Try to be hardworking. Always try to put yourself out there. Be available. Be available for opportunities. Never discount the opportunities that will be given to you. And most of all, and the most important, like I said, work hard.
Right. I mean, these are important to not get to just feel that, just like that, for free. For free. Thank you very much, Ma. One more thing, and I'd love to know if there are products or services available for women that can be accessible for women, especially for women in women entrepreneurship.
Yes, in FSDH, we have a group called the Women-Led Businesses, and what we are focused on is also not only their lending products, their advisory products, their investment products, but more important is their hand-holding. We will handhold women towards the various spaces, towards the various areas. So women in agro-allied, women in fintech, women in healthcare, women in education. We have a team. We have also partnered with a few international agencies to offer both debt, some equity and advisory product to them. So for me, it's come to FSGA, speak to us. This is an advertisement. Come to FSGA, speak to us, and we will handhold you through whatever phase of your journey you are going to as a woman entrepreneur.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Ma. I had a swell time having this conversation with you. I hope next time when we come, we would be very much open. Your doors will be open to us. My
doors are always open. Like I said, my phone is never off.
That's a good trait, by the way. That's a good trait. Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you so much. Well done.
And that'll be all on today's episode of the Women Series. I hope you learned one thing or two. Most importantly, the nuggets she dropped, I think they are very much knowledgeable. As much as she said, be knowledgeable, seek for mentorship, be very much available for opportunities such that those things do not pass you by. Yes, until we come your way again, if you'd like to reach out to us, send a mail to womenseries@proshare.co. To watch more of our videos and read more on our financial news stories and reports, log on to www.proshare.co to get that, and follow us on all our social media platforms to keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I am Ayomide Ogutoye. Thank you for watching.